She had tried everything. Every diet that went viral, every workout plan that promised results in 30 days, every calorie-counting app that turned eating into a math problem she could never quite solve. She was disciplined. She was motivated. She wanted it badly enough. And yet, year after year, the weight stayed. She blamed herself quietly, the way millions of people do, convinced that somewhere deep inside, she was simply not trying hard enough. What she did not know, what nobody had ever told her, was that she was not losing the fight because she was weak. She was losing it because she was fighting the wrong enemy entirely. That story belongs to more people than you might think. It might even belong to you. And the reason so many people stay trapped in that cycle, trying, failing, trying again, failing again, has nothing to do with discipline, nothing to do with motivation, and nothing to do with the quality of the diet plan they are following. The real reason is something that the weight loss industry has almost never talked about honestly, something so fundamental and so overlooked that once you understand it, everything you thought you knew about losing weight will need to be completely rebuilt from the ground up. The enemy was never the food on your plate. The enemy was the force driving you toward that plate in the first place. That force is hunger. Not hunger as a vague inconvenience you push through on a hard day, but hunger as a powerful, biological, neurological signal that controls far more of your behavior than you have ever been given credit for. Here is the most revealing proof that this is true. When pharmaceutical companies developed weight loss medications, they did not create drugs that burn fat faster, speed up metabolism, or force the body to work harder. The most effective ones do something far simpler. They reduce hunger. That is the entire mechanism. And when hunger drops, patients eat less automatically, effortlessly, without battling cravings or counting a single calorie. The weight comes off, not because they are trying harder, but because the biological drive to overeat has been switched off at the source. Think about how significant that is. If simply reducing hunger is enough to produce dramatic, sustained weight loss, without any other intervention, then the entire foundation of the diet industry has been built on the wrong premise. For decades, we have been sold the idea that weight loss is a mathematical problem. Consume fewer calories than you burn. Count your portions. Track your macros. Weigh your food. Measure your servings. And when that does not work, the industry's answer has always been the same. You need more willpower, more consistency, more effort. But that answer was never honest, because it was treating the symptom while completely ignoring the cause. The real question, the only question that actually matters, is not how many calories you are eating. It is why you cannot stop eating in the first place. And the answer to that question is simpler and more human than any diet guru has ever admitted. You overeat because you are hungry. Not always physically hungry, not always in the way your body genuinely needs fuel, but hungry in ways that are just as real, just as powerful, and far more complex than anyone ever explained to you. Nobody consciously decides to eat past their needs. Nobody sits down with the intention of gaining weight. People eat because something inside them is driving them to eat, and that drive is hunger in one of its many forms. Here is the part that changes everything. Hunger is not one single sensation. It is actually three completely distinct experiences, each one triggered by different mechanisms, each one demanding a completely different response. Confusing them is exactly why most diets fail. The first type is called hedonic hunger, and it is responsible for approximately 80% of obesity cases. Let that number land for a moment. 4 out of every 5 people struggling with their weight are being controlled by this specific form of hunger, and the vast majority of them have never heard the term. Hedonic hunger is not about an empty stomach. It is about dopamine, the brain's pleasure chemical, firing in response to triggers that have nothing to do with your body's actual energy needs. It activates when you see food on a screen, when you smell something cooking from across the street, when you walk past a bakery, when you sit down on the couch at night. It can ignite fully, urgently, powerfully, even if you ate a complete meal just 1 hour ago. Your body is not asking for energy. Your brain is chasing a reward, and it has learned exactly where to find one. This is the mechanism behind what people casually call emotional eating, except calling it casual does not do justice to how serious it actually is. When you are stressed after a hard day, when you are bored on a slow afternoon, when you are anxious or sad or simply understimulated, your brain turns to food the same way it would turn to any other source of relief. Ultra-processed foods, in particular, are extraordinarily effective at delivering the dopamine hit your brain is seeking. They are specifically engineered to be. The precise combination of sugar, salt, fat, and texture found in chips, cookies, chocolate, and ice cream does not happen by accident. It is the result of billions of dollars in food science research designed to make those products as neurologically rewarding as possible. And that is exactly why nobody has ever confessed to being addicted to salmon or losing control around eggplant. But almost everyone understands the experience of finishing an entire bag of chips before even realizing it. For decades, the response to this problem has been brutally simple and completely ineffective. Just use more willpower. Resist the cookie. Say no to the chips. Push through the craving. But telling someone to overpower their dopamine system with sheer determination is like telling someone to outrun a car on foot. The system is too powerful, too ancient, too deeply wired into human biology to be defeated through conscious effort alone. The real solution has to start somewhere else, with your environment. Experts use the term dopamine bombs to describe the ultra-processed foods that hijack your brain's reward center so aggressively that their mere presence in your home or your line of sight becomes enough to trigger the craving cycle. Remove them from your environment, and the signal weakens. Keep them around, and the battle never ends. Beyond the food itself, you must also begin to recognize and avoid the triggers, the advertisements, the habitual snack runs, the mindless eating that happens in front of screens, because each one of these cues is quietly training your brain to want food in moments that have nothing to do with hunger. This connects directly to the second type, called conditioned hunger, which is triggered entirely by habit and learned associations rather than any genuine physical need. Over 100 years ago, a scientist famously demonstrated that dogs could be trained to salivate at the sound of a bell, simply because the bell had been paired repeatedly with feeding time. The dogs were not hungry when the bell rang. Their bodies had not run low on fuel, but their brains had learnt the association so thoroughly that the sound alone was enough to activate the hunger response. Human beings work in exactly the same way. If you have eaten lunch at noon every day for years, then walking into the cafeteria at noon, or even simply looking at the clock and seeing 12, becomes enough to trigger real hunger sensations, even when your body has more than enough energy. The trigger has become the bell. Your body is Pavlov's dog. And most people have no idea this is happening. Conditioned hunger also spreads socially in ways that are deeply uncomfortable to acknowledge, but impossible to ignore. Research shows that if a close friend becomes overweight, your own risk of gaining weight increases by 171%. Not because of shared genetics, not because you are eating the same food, but because you begin to normalize what the people around you do. Their eating habits become the invisible standard you measure yourself against. A sibling gaining weight increases your own risk by 40%. These numbers are enormous. They dwarf almost any other dietary factor, and they make a very clear point. Your weight is not just a product of your choices. It is deeply, powerfully shaped by the environment and the people you surround yourself with. When conditioned hunger strikes, the most effective response is to wait it out deliberately. 30 minutes of keeping yourself occupied, a cup of green tea, a change of scenery. In most cases, that is all it takes for the craving to dissolve entirely, because it was never coming from a real physiological need. The third type of hunger is the only one you should actually respond to, and it is called homeostatic hunger. This is genuine, physical hunger, the signal your body sends when it has run low on fuel and genuinely needs nutrients to keep functioning. It feels completely different from the other two types. It does not arrive suddenly or urgently. It builds slowly, a gentle rumble, a mild drop in energy, a faint haziness in your thinking. And when you feel it, plain food sounds genuinely appealing. A hard-boiled egg sounds good. Grilled chicken sounds satisfying. You are not fantasizing about dessert or craving anything specific. You simply want food, real food, because your body needs it. This is the hunger your body was designed to experience, and it is regulated by a beautifully balanced hormonal system involving ghrelin, which signals that it is time to eat, and leptin and insulin, which signal that you are full and can stop. The tragedy is that for over 89% of people who struggle with excess weight, that fullness signal is broken. Leptin resistance and impaired insulin signaling mean the brain never properly receives the message that enough food has been consumed. The feedback loop fails. People eat past fullness, not because they lack discipline, but because their biology is not communicating correctly. And ultra-processed foods make this problem dramatically worse. Processed food does not trigger the proper satiation hormones. You can eat a massive quantity of it and feel hungry again within the hour, because your hormones never received the signal they needed. Real, whole food, protein, healthy fat, eggs, meat, fish, vegetables, speaks the language your hormonal system understands. It triggers genuine fullness, restores the feedback loop over time, and allows your body to do what it was always designed to do: tell you when you have had